had excused himself from this commission. That's your good position.
Recall that line of question. Do you recall being asked that question?
Yes.
When asked the question, your testimony was that there was very little reaction from you. Is that correct?
I believe so.
Can you describe for us why that was so?
I think the point that I was making at the time was, as an Army officer, almost every national event of significance, of search and rescue, mass deaths, maritime patrols in the ocean, sinking ships, death was something that we dealt with in the military in regular days. We went to crash sites with dead people. I was near Jonestown. I flew the first aircraft into Jonestown, flew the Congressman's body up, walking on dead people in Jonestown. And so, events of national significance was something that, not because of me as a person, but because of my role that I played as an Army officer. I was in the middle of significant national events in Guyana over the years. So it was not one that alarmed me or caused me of extreme concern as we moved from event to event over the years.
In comparing the realization that you may have transported Gregory Smith on June 14, 1980, how was your reaction compared to you being involved in other national events?
Exactly, I followed it. As a young military officer, we have no time involved in interrogation of our instructions to our senior officers. We did what we were instructed to do. Barring, I believe, what I would call, when I was back in today, what I would call any clear issues of illegality. But what I today would clearly identify as illegality or improperness, in context of 34 years ago, could have been different.
Could you say whether or not in June of 1980, after you came to the realization that you may have transported Gregory Smith, that you were involved in any potential illegality, whether or not you considered that to be the case?
Involved in what, sorry?
Any potential illegality?
No.
Commissioner Brown had asked you whether or not, even though you believe that you may have transported a man that could have been involved in the death of Dr. Rodney, you did not ask any questions. Do you recall that question?
Yes.
And your answer to that question was no, I did not ask any questions.
Correct.
Can you describe for us at that time whether or not you believe that Gregory Smith was involved in the circumstances concerning the death of Dr. Rodney? At that time.
And the context of that time, and I did make the point, that reading Dr. Rodney's brother account of the event in the Caribbean news media, that left a lot of questions in my own mind of what had happened that fateful night. But I can't tell you that I was no conclusion, decisive conclusion, over the years. Even as I stand here today. And so back then, 34 years ago, no. I had no clear, definite conclusion of the part that Gregory Smith had played and the part that Dr. Rodney had played in his own death. I had no clear conclusion in that event.
And Dr. Multiple, trying enough to have to clarify in the context of that time, He's using that expression repeatedly. What does it mean by it in the context of that time?
Captain, if I can identify what that means and to what time period you're speaking about, if any.
34 years ago, I was 23 years old, 24 years old. I was a very junior military officer, and I was living at a time in a country where information was extremely restricted and controlled. The information that flew to the citizens of the country because of the limited amount of media flow we had. And so that is what I mean, the context of the time 34 years ago. My age, my experience, and the atmosphere in which we all lived in those days.
We just going around in a circle, the atmosphere in which we all lived. What was that atmosphere you talked about? Who controlled the information?
But specifically, Captain COI, dealing with the date of June 14, 1980, and the days immediately subsequent to that date, can you describe for us what you consider to be the atmosphere at that time, if you have a view?
I didn't know the specific question, though. Who controlled the information? He said because information was restricted and controlled. What does it
We
mean?
had one newspaper, and we had two radio stations that was controlled by the state. And so all the information that was filtered to citizens in mass was filtered through that medium. Then we had the Cardiff Standard, I think, but it was a very small publication. And then we got information out of the Caribbean from time to time. And there are times that I actually sometimes flew into the Caribbean and Barbados when we would get, we'd be able to read news outside of that. So the context of time was a time when when the state controlled the information flow through the state media at the time.
When you came to the realization that you may have transported Gregory Smith on June 14, 1980, can you state whether or not you had a view as to the degree of his involvement in the death of Walter Rodney, if any?
No. Until I read the account of Dr. Walter Rodney's brother, that is the point in time when I believe I started to look at it with some level of interest. But not one where I was able to draw as well a conclusive conclusion on the event that caused Dr. Walter Rodney to lost his life.
Repeatedly here today, you have testified that you were a junior officer at that time, is that correct?
That's correct.
In June of 1980, how many years were you in the Army?
It would have been 3 years then.
And what was your rank at that time?
A second lieutenant.
And what does that mean? Were you able to give instructions?
As a pilot, well, in the context of the Army, second lieutenant is the most junior commissioned officer. The most junior commissioned officer. In the context of the Army Air Corps, the only thing you had command of was your aircraft. In the infantry, you would have had command of soldiers below you. But as an Army officer, as an Army pilot, at the rank of a captain or a lieutenant, you owned the second lieutenant. You only had control over the aircraft that you commanded.
And assuming that you received an instruction to fly in a certain area that you did not want to fly, could you have questioned those instructions or refused to follow them?
unless it was an issue of safety. We flew the length and breadth of this country in the dead of the night, in the worst thunderstorms, and never questioned the instructions to save people's lives from maritime reconnaissance. But if there was a reason that the aircraft was in service level, or we got weather reports that was really dangerous, then we would make the representation. But if we were instructed to go, then we went.
You have testified that there was a certain military protocol not to question the commands given by superior officers. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Can you describe to us what that protocol was?
You receive your command, and in fact, we had something we call copy. It was communicate, copy. It was an acronym. It was communicate, understand the communication, feedback, make sure, follow up on the communication, and finally the Y stands for you had to execute that instruction and communication. So we, in the military at the time, and today I believe, execute instructions that were given to us, lawful instructions that were given to us with experience.
And can you state what consequence, if any, there would have been for a second lieutenant questioning the commands that were previously given?
Disobeying command in the military, in any military world, there are particular military laws that will dictate it. But as a matter of routine, as I was voluntarily there, I was very proud of my military service, very proud of my army, very proud of wearing the uniform that I wore, and I executed every instruction with pride and dignity. And I never felt a reason to disobey or to question. And if I did, I would have, if I felt that it was unlawful. But at the time, I did not.
And just to expand on that answer, in June of 1980, or the subsequent months, did you at any time believe that your flight of June 14, 1980, that first flight, was in any way illegal?
Absolutely not.
Since that flight of June 1980, throughout the year of 1980, did you have any conversations with any military personnel or otherwise concerning that flight?
No.
Has anyone approached you since that flight to discuss the details of that flight in your years whilst you were in the military?
There was one time during the years of Desmond White, and Desmond White had actually signaled, President of Guyana had signaled that he was, I think, contemplating to have a similar commission inquiry like this. Nobody ever approached me directly, but it was the next time in my life that I focused on that flight, and I thought that maybe the time will come, for however it would help, to shed clearer light on what happened to Dr. Wall's body that night, and the circumstances surrounding his death. That whatever that I had to say really helped to shed light on what happened.
You had testified that you received the flight plan from the operations staff on June 14, 1980.
That's correct.
Can you describe what contact, if any, you had with your superior officer, which would have been the commanding officer of the fixed wing division on that day?
Not officer commanding, there are two different things. There's a commanding officer, which is in the rank of a major or a lieutenant colonel. Officer commanding is the rank of captain. So I would have, from time to time, had contact with the officer commanding, which was Captain Baker, who was the chief pilot and officer commanding of the fixed wing division. He was the person that would do my training. He was the person that we would interface with. But on a regular basis, we don't interface with him, we would interface with his staff, which was the corporals and the sergeants that worked in the operations center on the Iscomman.
Do you know who, if anyone, gave the operations staff instructions concerning that first flight on June 14, 1980?
I was not privy at the time to how the instructions flow, but I would imagine that it would always pass from the chief pilot down to the operations staff who would then disperse that information to us. As I got senior in the Army, I recognized that for a fact, that is the way it would happen. So when I, for example, became the chief pilot of the Army Air Corps, so I became the officer commanding, I would receive instructions from my commanding officer, and I would then pass it down to my pilots below me. But that was many years after.
Did you know prior to reporting for duty on June 14, 1980, that you were to fly to COI on June 14, 1980?
No. We would normally turn up to work, turn into the hangar. There was no requirement when we get there, then our mission would be handed to us or not handed to us. So we were meant to fly, all the pilots were here. And at that point in time, we'd be handed our mission. So you either flying or you're not flying when you report to duty that night.
And can you state whether or not you found it unusual that a passenger manifest may not have been given to you on that first flight of June 14, 1980?
I think I said earlier that I cannot recall, but I imagine that it was, but I cannot recall. Because at the standard, the passenger manifest, the load sheet, and the flight plan will be prepared by the operations staff and be given to the pilot as the standard. Now, in military operations, there are many times when we would fly without the manifest because we would be flying VIPs, and what they will do, what is never compromised is the load sheet of the aircraft, which will deal with the safety, the weight and balance of the aircraft. In terms of the passengers, if they were top secret passengers, if they were government officials or visiting dignitaries, many times that will not be given to us. That would be kept by the operations staff themselves.
Do you personally know of the circumstances concerning Dr. Rodney's death?
No, absolutely not.
Do you know who was involved, if anyone?
No.
Do you have any knowledge of any facts or circumstances, other than those that we've discussed here this morning, concerning the death of Dr. Walter Rodney?
No.
Commissioners, at this point, I have no further questions for Captain.
Thank you. Thank you.
Chair, I wonder if I could then have an opportunity now to ask a few questions. Captain, taking the account as given by Don Rodney out of the equation just for the moment, do you accept that you had a duty when your suspicions were raised to do anything?
With due respect, sir, I wonder if the question you asked me is asked in the context of today or the context back then.
Well, let's deal with back then first.
Right. Back then, no.
No. Today, no.
Today, my mind is extremely inquisitive and extremely revolutionary.
But forgetting,
and I would have done it today. Yes.
You would have done it today.
Yes.
Now, much of your evidence is couched in terms that refer to the following: your youth, the fact that you were a junior officer, and the fact of this context and this atmosphere and so on and so forth. So can I coalesce your answer into a position where you agree with me that your conditions at that time, the particular conditions existing around you, were such that you did something that you regret? I want to begin with that. Your non-action, then
You're asking me today.
yes, if that is something you don't regret, having said that today you would have done it differently.
No.
Just to be clear, what action? What non-action did you take?
Your failure to do anything at all after it came to your attention that you could have flown a man who was involved in the death of Walter Rodney. That non-action is what I'm asking you about. I understood your answer earlier to be saying that today you would have done something about it. What I want to know now is if you accept that you have some regret looking back on your non-action.
I have no regret. I'll tell you what, today, I feel a sense of duty to be here and to testify to this commission the whole truth and nothing but the truth, as I know it. And if I would hold anyone accountable for the fact that I never had this opportunity to relate the fact that I foolishly played which I felt, then I would hold the state. And state, I mean whether we're talking about the former government or this government, that they never created the atmosphere for this to happen before. So I'm glad that it's happening today.
So you agree with me then that the state at the time ought to have
Absolutely.
explored?
Absolutely.
And you agree with me then that there was an absence of a thorough investigation by the state of these circumstances?
And it's important. I'm sorry, with your respect, when you ask a question, you could please, if you refer to what I believe today,
Then, the failure of the then government, the government who would have been you would have been in their command.
yes.
The government who would have stated, first of all, that there was no Gregory Smith at all. That government, in your view, did they have any responsibilities to explore further the questions about Gregory Smith and his being in a plane and so on?
Absolutely. That government,
As we say, Mark, let's stick a pin right there, right? Do you think that even as a junior officer, even in the context of the atmosphere, as you call it at the time, you had any duty whatsoever to the people of Guyana and to the army which you worked in to draw any of these matters in terms of your suspicions to any one superior's attention?
in the context, then no.
Okay, so let's look at that context a little bit. Do you concede that the media was controlled by the government?
Absolutely.
Do you agree that that was wrong?
Absolutely.
Do you concede that there were a number of things happening in the atmosphere, as you call it at the time? And I refer to, first of all, the use of the House of Israel to carry out the work of the state. Are you aware of that? Have you ever heard of that?
I read about it here, yes.
Did you read about it then, back in 1980?
Yes, there were rumors. Well, I was based out of, I was at Samaria for years, so I was not involved in the activities that was happening here in the city, but I did hear of it, yes.
Did you at all at that time, in that atmosphere, have any concern that the government was manipulating government organizations, including the one that you were a part of?
If you ask me that question in the context of 34 years ago, 3 years of being an army officer, I would say to you, I did not give it a lot of thought, but I would say to you as I grew older in the army, yes, tremendous thought to freedoms and democracy, freedom of the media, and the restrictions we lived under became of extreme concern to me.
2 years before this unfortunate incident in June of 1980, 919 odd people died at Jonestown.
Yes.
Did you have any concern about the fact that the then government, for example, had brought Jonestown into Guyana at all? For example?
It's an interesting question, sir. Because actually,
What
I will answer you.
So, go ahead.
At the time, we were populating our hinterland and we were doing it in national service centers all over the country. We had young people, thousands of us, were going out into the hinterland to do agriculture, to develop our country across, move away from the coastline. And when, as a young man, I saw what was happening at Jonestown, never for 1 minute did I feel the writing improper. And again, understanding context. When I was there, and I flew government officials into Jonestown, and what I saw was exactly what I was seeing happening across the country. People were in agriculture, they were building.
These people were Guyanese people?
They were American people.
Did you think anything unusual with bringing 1,000 non-nationals to work in your country?
No, absolutely not. Nothing wrong. No,
Let's leave that alone there. That was fine to you.
yeah, absolutely, yes. And actually, we had a lot to learn from them in the early stages, sir.
When we still have a lot to learn, but let's leave that.
Let me just put it in context, to say to you, when the suicide happened, a lot of us then learned afterwards the significance of what was happening. But during the life of Jonestown, if you had visited Jonestown, you had no reason to suspect that they were involved in any kind of improper or illegal activities.
All right, thanks. Now, because of things like Jonestown, I'm finished with Jonestown. The witness, with all due respect to him, wanted to have some say about it, and I've allowed it that say.
Thank you, sir.
Things like Jonestown made you feel, as you said, not alarmed easily by death. Those are your words.
Yeah.
Now, you didn't have any responsibility in the death of the people at Jonestown, for example. That wasn't anything to do with you.
No, I knew about them. Personally.
Yeah, but you didn't have any, you weren't at fault. Nobody can say you were there. Tell somebody drink some Kool-Aid. Right. You agree that that is entirely different to a situation in which you may be implicated in flying someone away from a scene.
Never. If you ask me if I felt that I was implicated at the time, absolutely not.
After the death of Burnham, sometime in 83, I believe.
85.
85, I beg your pardon.
5th of August, 1985.
Sorry?
5th of August. 6th of August.
You all were close?
Actually, it's the day after my wedding anniversary.
Under Mr. Hoy, you said there was the promise of some sort of inquiry.
Yes.
And you were keen then
Yes.
for an opportunity.
Yes.
It seems to me that, on listening to your evidence, sir, that you were keen all along. Is that correct? From the time you were involved? Or did you become keen in 85? Or did you become keen in 87? Did you become keen now? When did your keenness to bring these things to light, when did that begin for you?
If at any point in time, the government
And listen to me and forget the government for a moment. When did you become keen to bring these things to light? Forgetting opportunities being offered to you by a government. When did you become keen to think these things should come to light?
Sorry, which statements are we talking about?
Your knowledge of who you had in that plane and your inaction in dealing with it. When did you think that people other than yourself should get to know about it? You were keen in 87, or sometime after 85, the 7th of August, or what it is, you say taking on that. Sorry, sir. I'm very confused here.
I would say to you at any point in time that there was a commission of inquiry like this, I would have been keen and willing to do my duty if I'm called to do it.
In other words, you had no personal duty as far as you were concerned. If a government didn't offer you any opportunity, these secrets would go to their grave with you. That's correct?
Which secrets?
The secrets of your flying a man you believe to be Gregory Smith.
Let me explain to you why. It's a secret to you, it's not a secret to me.
Hold on, dear brother, hold on. Do you agree with me that these secrets would go to their grave, would die with you?
No.
You told other people then?
Sorry?
You have then told other people?
No.
In other words, what I'm trying to get from you, Captain, is barring action by the government, creating a commission of inquiry, did you think at any time that you, I think your first name is Jerry, did you, Jerry Gavaya, forget the captain, forget all that, you was a human being, that you had a duty to say, look, I knew information that could be relevant to an investigation into the death of a human being?
No.
Wow. You know, what can I help you, Captain?
When I saw the picture, when I saw this picture in the newspapers, it looked like the man who was in my plane. Looked like the man who was in my plane. If you ask me to 100% confirm that, even then, in the context of today, I would say to you, no, I cannot absolutely tell you that. But I will tell you it was an anomaly I felt in my heart, which I believe, but I cannot 100% confirm it. Because I never spoke to the man.
Captain, go ahead.
Yes, sir.
It looked enough like the man that 34 years later, here you are today. You agree with that?
Yeah.
It looked enough like the man that it was, in your view, quote unquote, an anomaly. You agree with that?
Absolutely.
It looked enough like the man that you're saying that if it had happened today, you would have done something about it. You agree with that?
Absolutely, yes.
And the excuse that you cling to, as I understand it, is your youth.
I would call it an excuse, sir. It's not an excuse.
Sorry. The reason,
To the premise.
premise, you prefer premise?
Thank you very much.
The premise that you cling to for not doing it is your youth.
No. It was my rank.
Youth
In the
and
military, it is my rank.
I need to know your youth,
Yeah. And
your rank,
yes.
and what you call the context.
And the military protocol. Yes.
So I think the rank would cover that.
Right.
Do you know Norman McLean?
Yes.
When did you first meet this gentleman?
When he was in the Ghana National Service.
Do you have any idea if that is before June 1980?
I was in the Ghana National Service in 1975.
I'm going to say that's before then.
That's right.
Have you ever had a conversation with Norman McLean about the events that you discussed with this tribunal today?
Not when this commission was established and I was approached about giving evidence, I did mention to him because over the years, as we both came out into the military and private sector, we became colleagues, and I did mention to him that I was written to about appearing here, and he listened to my statement to him, and that was the end of the conversation. We never had any detailed conversation, no.
You said he listened to your statement to him?
Yes, I told him that I was going to come here because I got the letter of the commission inviting me to give evidence, and I did share that information with him, yes.
Did you tell him what you were coming to give evidence about?
Oh, no, I did not discuss that with him.
Did he ask you?
No, he did not.
You let me finish, brother? I'm Captain, man. You don't care at all.
My apologies, counsel.
They're easy, bro. Did he ask you what would be the relevance of your evidence to this tribunal? What could you possibly have to tell this tribunal 34 years after about events in June 1980? He didn't ask you that?
No.
Well. And you didn't say to him, not Mr. McLean or Brigadier or Captain Kirk or whoever he is, you didn't say to him, Major General, I beg your pardon, I get these things wrong, I'm not a military man. Okay. You didn't say to him, the reason I am being called to give evidence is?
You're delving into the context and the details of the conversation. How you asked me if I told him, I said yes. If you want to know the context and the details of the conversation, I will say to you that we were actually going to the Private Secretary Commission, sitting at a council meeting, and I turned to him and I said to him, I got a letter from the commission and inviting me to give evidence. And in fact, when I contacted my own attorney, just to make it very clear, I said to him, I told him what had happened, but I said to him, the commission did not spell out to me initially exactly what they wanted me to come here to say. My attorney, I believe, is one of the answers. So the commission never told me clearly what is it I was coming here to do. I could only imagine that. So I never discussed that with Mr. McLean or anybody else. I discussed with my attorney.
See?
Counsel, unless I had it wrong,
Yes, sir.
I captured him and said, after the commission was established, I spoke to him, maybe Mr. McLean,
Yes, sir.
gave him my statement, and he said that. If that is true, what statement?
This is what I was, my earlier question was, when you use the term statement, what did you mean by statement?
I gave him my statement, unless I captured it wrong, and he said nothing.
I want to say to you, sir, if that is what you captured, that is definitely not the context in which I meant to say. If I said so.
Okay, let's
But what I did say to you, which is what I said a moment ago, when I got the letter from the commission, I did mention to Mr. McLean that I was invited to give evidence here, and I did not discuss with him the context because I myself was not informed by the commission. And you see the letter, it was a very, and so and the only person I discussed the details with was my attorney.
Mr. Gobaya, that he did say, I told him I was approached, he listened to my statement to him. And then the attorney did ask me what he meant by statement, and he did say, that is that I was asked to give evidence, but I did not tell him what I was going to say.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
To the extent that Mr. McLean mentioned you in his evidence here on June 5th, he said that you told him that you were coming to fly, you're coming to give your evidence about flying the plane. Is that a fair account of your conversation with him?
I really don't recall having the details and the content.
I'm not asking you for details and look at them. I'm asking you to tell the man, I come to tell him I fly the plane anywhere.
No, I did not.
You mentioned to him, in other words, when he says in his evidence on June 5th here before this tribunal that you told him you were coming to give evidence about flying the plane, is he lying on you?
If Mr. McLean said so,
Yes. If he said that, is he the liar or you?
in order to the military officer, I have to say I'm the liar. But I will say to you, I do not recall the context of the conversation, other than the cursory conversation I had with Mr. McLean, and the only person I discussed the details of my involvement here is my attorney.
Yeah.
Right.
So you didn't mention any plane to Mr. Gabay?
To Mr. McLean.
Asked and answered to the best of the witness's ability in this instruction.
Did you think that, when was that conversation? That you mentioned that you were coming to give evidence before this tribunal and you nor McLean discussed it any further. When did that conversation take place?
Maybe a day or two after I got the letter. I
didn't know you get the letter, so that
I can't, but I don't recall it. You have to give me the letter. Let me see the letter out there. It was not a significant event.
And was it months ago, weeks ago, last week? Because he said he spoke to you, I think, a week or 2 weeks before June 5th.
If he said so, then he's right.
And that
If he established that as a date, I will not contest that date to him. Just to say it's not unusual for me to have discussions on a regular basis with Mr. McLean.
I'm suggesting to you that you had conversations with Norman McLean about these events. I'm suggesting that to you about the plane and about your flying a man you believe to be representative, that you have had those conversations before today. That's my suggestion to you. You should respond rather than shaking your head.
I think I said to you that the only person I had detailed conversation with was my attorney and no one else.
Based on the law,
That's my thing with Scotty, that you have conversations with McLean about playing the plane that might pass Rodney Smith on road. What is your answer to that? It seems to me that admits of yes, no, don't recall. The answer you gave, I don't think it would be a reasonable answer to that question.
I will try as much as possible to give as reasonable an answer that I could give now, sir.
Great, I appreciate that.
The discussion I had with Mr. McLean, I mentioned to him that I was invited by this commission to give evidence here. I do not recall discussing the details because I myself at the time I spoke to him, I myself was not informed by the Commission the details of what I was meant to give here. So I do not recall discussing the details of what I was coming here to talk with Rodney. I discussed with my attorney. And I asked him to find out exactly from the Commission, which he did. And then he shared it with me afterwards.
Captain Rohaya,
Please, certainly.
as far as the death of Dr. Walter Rodney is concerned, and apart from flying that plane from Timeri to Papuan, did you have in your own mind any other involvement? And when I say involvement, or any part to play in the death of Dr. Walter Rodney?
Absolutely.
So in your own mind, you knew, even without the letter specifying what you were called upon to come here to see, you knew that the only thing that you could speak to or speak about was flying the aircraft from Timeri to Papuan.
I imagine that the Commission will definitely be probing into those areas. They'll be probing into, and I looked at the terms of reference as well, that they'll be probing into the context of the time and the things that might have been contributing to the environment that we lived in in those days. And that in the context of my talking here, I would have been prepared to tell you everything that I know. And so that is why. But when I spoke to my attorney, I asked him if there was any specific areas that the Commission was interested in, rather than having a general overview of the context of the time. And he came back to me with a very detailed, specific area that they wanted me to talk about.
But my question is, apart from all of us who were living in that time, especially people like yourself in Guyana, could have been, would have been able to speak about the climate, industrial relations, political, economic. We're not dealing with general knowledge. I'm saying in your own mind, the only involvement as far as you were concerned was that because your curiosity had been triggered after you flew the aircraft and you saw this photograph, right?
Yes.
So in your own mind, you knew that that was the only direct part that you had to play, if anything.
I think so, yes.
But since I have your ear, can I ask you, we are all human beings and we get curious from time to time, and you've described very graphically to us, as best as you could recall, when after you saw the photograph and you reflected on the fact, could you describe that person for us? The person, as best as you could recall, that was on the aircraft?
He looked like a red man.
A red man?
Yeah, he was a red man.
How tall was he?
Probably, he looked like this.
But to the extent that it is useful, Chair, I have to insist that I'm not Gregory Smith.
No one here suggested that.
I didn't know that it was referring to you at all.
I thought I was about 7 inches tall based on all the descriptions I've seen, but I await confirmation.
I thought it was required
Did he have slight bow legs? What do you call that?
I do not recall.
Can't recall.
No.
Most of the hairstyles here do we have.
He didn't look as distinguished as the gentleman, sir. But I actually believe he had more hair on his head. No, I really did.
No, I'm not saying.
Yeah, and but he was not an Indian man, he was not an African man, he was somewhere in between. And so I call him a red man.
Okay, but let me go back to my question. I know it's difficult when you're in the stand, and sometimes your memory gets a bit fuzzy with all these questions. It's not easy. Could it have been possible that you may have discussed with Major General McLean when you had this conversation? Because he's someone who is quite familiar to you, isn't he?
Yes.
That you would have told him that you're coming to tell the Commission about the flying of the aircraft. Was it possible at all?
I don't recall, but I will say to you, it would not have been an anomaly today at this time, but I really don't recall discussing the details with him. Because I was not, and I'm the reason is because the only person I recall going into detail was my attorney. But I said to him, and I said, when I sat him down and spoke, I said, I'm going to tell you everything I know, the whole truth and nothing but the truth. And I told him everything I know. And I said, I'm coming here to do that today. As honestly as I could.
Yes, the witness did earlier say, acknowledge that it was a very cursory conversation, but he couldn't remember the details.
I was simply trying to see if I can help, because in your own mind, you would have been clear as to what you were coming to say, because you knew you were involved in flying the aircraft.
Yes, I was the commander, the captain of the aircraft, yes.
I noticed you said something, I'm not sure if it was Mr. Pilgrim. Yes, it was Mr. Pilgrim. Given the military protocol, you readily accepted that you were wrong because he was of a higher rank. Are you deferring to him at all? Because,
Sorry, I don't know.
when Mr. Pilgrim put the foreign conflict to you, you readily deferred to Major General McLean because of the military protocol.
Yes, sir.
Is it that you are deferring to him in this instance as well because of the military protocol?
No, it was because Mr. McLean is with due respect, is a leader, and anybody who had the privilege of serving under him.
We have to have this again. We quite frankly, sir, this commission is not concerned.
You have to complete what you say.
These people's resumes.
What were you saying?
I'm the same on the great man.
Mr. McLean was.
I think in good faith and in good mutual respect is where I came here, sir. And I would never disrespect any one of you. And I just want to say to you, sir, that in the context of Guyana, Mr. McLean was a leader in Guyana that was respected by people who served under him. And in that context, and because he was a leader like that, there are many people who still respect him today, and I'm one of those that do. Thank you very much.
If I can continue from that point here. Do you respect him so much that you would call yourself a liar over him? Because that's what you're doing.
If it's insignificant enough.
And you think you regard the issue of whether you discuss with him this plane as insignificant.
I did say to you that I do not recall the details of the conversation I had
But
with
you're
you.
now calling it insignificant. I'm asking you if you are agreeing.
Commissioner, at this juncture, I think we've given our counsel considerable latitude to ask the question.
I think we must
If we could proceed.
try to restore some order and proceed in order,
Great.
please.
The witness, not me, referred to these matters as insignificant. What are you calling insignificant, sir?
I never refer to any matters of insignificance. You asked me if the conversation I had with Mr. McLean and the details of the conversation I had with him, whether I told him that I flew the plane or not. And I said, I spoke to my attorney. I do not recall that I did speak to the details of Mr. McLean. I do not think so. And that is what I meant.
You went past that. I just asked you just now if you would call yourself a liar over him. Your answer to that was yes, where the matters are insignificant. I then asked you if you are saying that the question of whether you and him talked about this plane is insignificant. That is the question now.
At the instant in time, the conversation, yes, I believe it was insignificant.
Very well.
Right.
Did the police at any time question you about this matter?
Never.
Did it ever come to your attention that the police had in their bosom statements from people who saw the plane that you were piloting in Kwakwan on the 14th of June?
Never did.
Did it ever come to your attention that there were other witnesses who said they saw Gregory Smith dismount from a plane on the 14th of June?
Never did.
Did it ever occur to you that the state was manipulating this investigation?
Which state?
Well, let's deal with the state of the time.
Exactly. Please, I ask you respectfully if you can just put it
I'll
out.
try my best, sir, to keep to your requirements.
No, just in context.
Thanks. June 13th and beyond, 1980, that context.
Well, immediately after the events of that time, I remember reading in the news that the government had invited British investigators in Guyana to investigate the circumstances of this event. And because of my life was one of a very active and busy one, I did not pay attention to the findings and details of that investigation.
Did you think it appropriate that you should approach those investigators and bring your information?
Absolutely not.
Because?
That was I was a military officer.
Right.
Nothing that I did I felt was irregular. Secret.
Did you think you could assist their investigation?
If they had approached me, I would definitely have done that. As a military officer, it would have been totally out of my protocol to approach investigators on any activity I had done while I was still an active member of the military.
If you, as a military officer, following orders, see something that is an anomaly to you and could be relevant to an investigation into a death, is there any channel within the Army that you can use to bring it to the attention of investigators, whether police?
If I felt that way, yes, but I did not feel that way.
You just told us that today you would do the right thing.
No, today, but I'm saying to you, at the context of time, I did not.
Let's see if we can.
Council Captain Reyes testified that at the time he did not feel anything wrong or illegal was being done. Questions are now being asked, what would he have done today, and trying to transcribe that to what he would have done at the time. Because Captain Reyes testified that at the time he did not feel he was doing anything wrong, even after coming to the realization that he may have transported Gregory Smith, I think that Council Pilgrim's questions should be tailored accordingly. Frankly, I think he's beating a dead horse in this church.
Well, I hope your client is not a horse. And I don't mean any injury. Chair.
I was about to conclude that in relation to when you move from Mr. McLean house,
I answer.
you have to, because I thought that particular
That particular horse, I think, is number 6.
I think we tried.
I moved from that, but the witness then returned to this issue of truth then and truth now. I think maybe I should try to clarify that before I go
For a
on.
long while he's been speaking about how he views things then and how
Yes,
he does not.
I understand that, Chair.
I don't know that now it's terribly useful to us.
Not terribly.
But
Let's see if I can clarify with a few questions and then we'll go on.
I promise to not be too long on that. Yes.
What you would do now, you would regard as the right thing. Taking some action, you would regard as the right thing.
As I grew older,
No, it's either right or
I
wrong.
questioned everything. And I would definitely question everything that is an anomaly in my life. And so anything that I do, or anything that comes across my desk or my life, yes, I would question.
Do you think, Captain Gavaya, that things can be right now and wrong then, and both be perfectly fine?
Yes.
Commissioners, again, forgive me. Forgive me for interjecting.
No, sorry.
Questions are already been covered. Almost identical questions are already been asked and answered. We would respectfully request that Council be persuaded to move to the next topic, if there's nothing else to bring.
I take it from my learned friend. I think the issue of whether it is right is quite frankly a matter for the Commission. And I leave it to the Commission as to whether it is right in 1980 June and whether it's right now today. I think the Commission will decide what is right from what is wrong. I just pass quickly to your statement. I don't want to linger. I know that other people know the order well want back. I want you to look at paragraph 36. Sorry.
delineated exactly what we put on it. We have to be satisfied with exactly indeterminate of the date in the tax credit.
No doubt, sir.
What it says about the flexibility.
No doubt, Chair.
Okay.
Chair, I just want to pass quickly just to a few issues. I don't know if you have heard, sir, but Gregory Smith, or someone purporting to be the sister of Gregory Smith, published a book sometime, I think, around 2005, 2007, with the title An Assassination Cry of a Failed Revolution.
Yes.
Just to the extent that it is relevant to your testimony about the people on the plane with you on that first flight. At page 39 of that document, 38 of it, pardon.
Has he ever seen the book?
Yes, I'm not. Yes, I beg your pardon.
Yes, I come, yes.
You actually read it and all
Yes,
that.
yes, I read it.
In what is chapter 4, in a period where I understand him to be describing the aftermath, he indicates that he was driven onto the runway or very near to a plane and put onto that plane. Would that accord with the circumstances in which the passenger you believe could have been Gregory Smith? Would that accord with how that person went onto your plane?
No.
It would not.
Oh, and in fact, I think you read that they talk about stairs and you're downstairs.
Yes.
Right. And when I did read it, I did recognize that that book actually, for that particular event of my flight was not at all reflective of that event where I was involved on that flight.
Thank you.
Before you move on,
Yes.
the witness mentioned stairs. It's of significance, is it?
Sorry?
Some stairs. You said the book referred to stairs.
Yes.
That your plane had
No,
stairs?
I don't have stairs. You just step off the ground into the air.
Thank you very much. Yes.
That's my understanding. Grateful, Madam Commissioner.
I saw you putting away your...
That's why I thought he had said that his reference to stairs made no sense because there were no stairs.
Right.
He said he made the reference, but he didn't.
I'm grateful to you, Chair, Commissioner, for the clarification. The number of the plane you flew on the 14th, if you can refer to your log there on your left hand.
I'm sorry, to go back to that, he says how the events occurred do not accord with a car being driven along the runway. Can you tell us how the person accessed the airplane, the persons?
You've heard the question.
They all.
They walked from the hangar
Yes, thanks.
into the aircraft.
And hangar would have been approximately how far away? Just approximately.
Maybe they would be standing here and by the front row that would really aircraft in the park. So they would walk from here to the aircraft.
Certainly no cars or in between.
None.
And was there anybody waiting in the wings, waving them off? Did you notice anybody else around?
But I can remember them standing in hand. Like I said, there was a man, and they were kind of clustered together. But it was not unusual. They were there, and they seemed to be, and they were waiting when I got there. When I got to work with these people were in the hand, and I walked, saw them, went into the operations room, and then did the flight afterwards.
And none of the operations officers pointed them out and said, those are your passengers? Or did that happen?
Yes. When I went into the operation room, that was when they were describing the flight that we had to do. They said the passengers are in the hangar, and they're the ones that are going to be taken to perform.
And these would have been army officers who were...
These were NCOs, they were non-commissioned officers, they were corporals and sergeants.
But members of the Army.
Members of the Army, yes.
Would they be senior or junior chief?
Very, very,
Very.
very junior. In the Army, you have commissioned officers and then you have non-commissioned officers. So at the rank, they were operating maybe about 2 or 3 levels above a private soldier. So you have a private soldier, then you have a corporal, lance corporal, corporal, sergeant, W1, and so on, and you get a lieutenant. So they were junior non-NCOs.
And you were what?
I was a commissioned officer. I was the most junior commissioned officer. And they were junior non-commissioned officers. So they in the structure.
Thank you so much.
I mean, just for the record, could it be reflected in the distance pointed out by the witness is about 30 feet if that is agreed upon? Just for the record, the distance that they walk.
I do it about that.
You could give a judgment on feet there, sir? Approximately.
I can give you a height. No, I'm averaging because they were in the hangar and as they walked to the hangar, they was outside on the ramp, outside the hangar.
You would say more than 20 feet for that.
I would say so.
I don't know if you again. Okay?
I would prefer that not more than 20 feet could mean a lot of things. You could put in a tighter range. I think would be better.
20 to 40 feet.
Where did you say from above the table, I was down from the missing box?
I was looking at where I was looking at mine sitting with it.
The first row?
That's it.
There are several good-looking young men there.
Gotta put up your hand in the back so you can look at you.
I'm at the side.
Mrs. Clark points out that he's right here.
In the front row.
Gentleman in the brown shirt.
Yeah, the brown shirt with the fancy looking guy. That's that young man.
7 to 8 yards.
Yards, chairman of this league, he lives in public. They barely go feet.
I think we did say between more than 20, maybe less than 40. But I think
Leave it at that. Leave that as a pass. The earlier I had referred to some witness statements. And share with your league, I want to refer to a document that was part of LJCID WR1, and I think I'm on page 55. If the secretary can help me there with page 55, 57, and 59. This would have been from the police officer who gave us these from.
The statement, the document on that.
Well, the document is the statement I'm looking for is that Avril Warren statement.
It's page 55.
That's what I had indicated, so just ask
Say
them.
from the police squad.
Yes, sir.
And who the police one who took the statement?
This is Winston Sago, Detective Sergeant 8267. I just wanted, if the secretary could assist me with that, he can see a copy while I ask him.
And Sago is S-A-I-G-O.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Winston Sago.
Yes, Chair. Winston Sago, Detective Sergeant 8267. Captain, if you look at the top of this document, just first of all, do you see a name there? Avril Warren, female Negro, age 38. Yes. She states at the third line, on Saturday, 14th of June 1980, I was at home when a Guyana Defense Force aeroplane came and landed at Mopani airstrip, and I saw a strange-looking man and woman. The man is thin-built, of mixed race. He's about 5 feet 7 inches, brown complexion, and has narrow features. Could these events and that description be consistent with the person you believe to have flown to Kwakwan?
without reading the rest of it, I would say that
That's the description. She goes on to describe the woman, but I want to focus on the man because the man is who you remember.
Right.
I don't think I'm hiding anything from you. Now, a little further down the page, towards the middle, a paragraph beginning or a sentence beginning on Tuesday, 17th of June.
I'm sorry, Counselor, before you get there, even though you don't want the woman's description, I think it's important for sequence of events to know that the statement also refers to some children being with them, which is consistent with this.
Well, let's explore it fully. The statement continues in these terms. The woman is of Indian descent, her hair was cut short, and she's about 5'4", brown complexion, and has sound features. I'm not so sure if that meant to be sound or round, but that's what it is. They had some children along with them. Would this be consistent with the party that you flew to COI on the 14th of June?
Only the description of the woman and children. In terms of the woman herself and the function described,
You might not have those details in your memory. But in terms of the numbers and the age of the parties, this would be consistent with what,
Yes.
who you flew.
yes.
Great. A little further down the page, on Tuesday, 17th of June, which is a few days after, 1980, I was at home when the said Guyana Defense Force aircraft returned, and I saw 3 persons come over the plane. One of them, a short, dark-skinned man, dressed in civilian clothes, came to the main gate and asked the constable where one Cecil Smith is living. The constable sent him to the finance section to inquire for Smith. Then afterwards, I saw him left for the park. He spent some time at the park, then he returned to the main gate along with Gregory Smith. Then both left for the aircraft. Do you know anything about flying there in that same aircraft on the 17th?
No. Could I refer to my mom?
Certainly, please. I've referred to it already and I didn't see any reference, but please do check.
On 17th, I went to Tacoma, and then I went to Latin, and then I went to Marquette. The same aircraft I flew. Now, the military aircraft is the same. They all look the same way, but the only way you know the difference is with the registration numbers. So when she said she saw the same plane, she would have seen the same type of plane.
But you might not know that this is a partner completely different plane. It could be.
No, well, only different in terms like looking at 2 tables. So you don't know the difference by the registration number. So because the records in my log show that I flew that the exact same plane I flew on the 14th. I flew on the 17th, but I did not go to COI.
Where did you go?
To Tacoma.
Can you tell us, give the Commission an idea of the distance between Tacoma and COI by air?
It would probably be
5 minutes?
in fact, you could put it on your iPad and you can look at it.
So you know.
No, I'm serious. I wouldn't be able to tell you that off my head. But if I see it, this is
When you say that the 2 places are close together,
they are in proximity.
well, I'm in proximity to the Hotel Pegasus, but that's not.
Well,
What type of proximity?
I would say you're looking at about maybe 10 to 15 minutes.
In the air.
Yes.
Maybe get it correctly here. But when he is in proximity, close proximity to the
The common is military base.
Thank you.
With your leave, Chair, I want to refer to the statement which is at page 57 in the same bundle.
I'm so sorry, but for the witness, for the verbal record, note the time of the flight that he piloted to
come.
Just for the
Just read that
record.
in for our record.
Yes, the bridge took off at 8:36 in the morning. Got it? Its engine was started at 8:36. And the aircraft landed at 9:20. Well, its engine were turned off at 9:20.
Can I see the record he's referring to, because it appears I'm looking at something.
TAC, we reference TAC is another conference. You remember you have to minus all the Greenwich Mean Time to get here.
Oh, no, true. When he was explaining that.
Just go over for us, please, Captain. Sorry?
I
Just
look
look at it,
the numbers seem to be different, and I believe there's a good explanation for it.
Just You had earlier referred to the time that you would mark and put on what the time would be to us in Guyana. Can you just take us through tell us exactly what is written there, what are the times, and what they mean?
Okay. 11:36, that is Greenwich Mean Time, which will be 8:36 in the morning. Guyana time.
And just tell us what the details before that show, that you flew from where to where?
This is Tamiri, it was referred to as GEO, Georgetown, to Tacoma, and then from Tacoma, back to Oval.
And that would have been your flight on the 17th.
That was one of the flights, and then I went again
I'm
back.
not having any trouble with the others at this
Okay.
stage.
The first flight, that was the first flight. Thank you very much.
Now, the next statement I'm going to refer you to is at page 57.
Did you get it clear about that? According to that statement provided by Mr. Sego,
Yes.
it was the defense force, Guyana Defense Force plane.
I think that's what it was. That's why he was saying it could be any defense force plane.
We had 5 of those.
Because they had certain numbers on them.
Okay, the book tries to identify the number, which we don't seem to have.
I think we have it in the next statement,
Well,
or certainly one of them. That's the record. Can the witness be shown page 57 of the same LJCID 1? Yes.
This is Mark 57 we're talking.
And Joel Southwood is the name of
Yes,
it?
that's correct.
Excellent.
Just before,
Certainly.
something has occurred to me. Mr. Gabriel, when you flew the plane to Tacoma, did you have co-pilots with you on that occasion? Would that be recorded, or would you know, or were you flying alone?
I will tell you.
I'm very sorry, Holmes.
No, I think that's very helpful. I'm grateful to you.
Actually, there was no co-pilot.
Okay, thank you.
Just so that it would help us.
Just so that also, I answered about normally from the co-pilot.
This is good enough. Would there be any references to a co-pilot on any of those flights?
Yes.
So we could pick it up.
Yes, if you look at the end, if you look, for example, on June 14th, if you look at the end of that line, you see AR.
So that would be a co-pilot.
That would be, I normally make, and that's not compulsory, that's something I can do on just to record who the co-pilot is, and I just put the initials. So on that flight, it was AR, and then I think NW and so on. So
let's get it clear. The flight that you made on the 14th of June,
yes.
1980, was there for like
According to my record, and when I look at it, at the end of the initial,
that what you have told me, but just as what you was there for while I recorded it.
sorry,
Was there a co-pilot?
according to this, yes. According to my record here, when I look at the logbook,
On the first flight, on the 14th?
on June the 14th, this AR would have been the co, and he would have flown the vehicle entirely.
Captain Gabriel, I'm confused. I thought you said earlier
There was
that a single aircraft
Yes.
engine, a single engine aircraft,
No, not single pilot.
single pilot,
Yes.
and you had no co-pilot. But you're now saying having looked at your record.
I'm seeing, when I flew, even though this.
No, I understand. You said before there was no co-pilot, but
Right.
now having looked at your logbook,
Yes.
you now see, you're correcting that by saying there was a co-pilot.
Yes, for my records, yes. I can
Okay,
see
yes,
it.
that's all clear.
Would your record permit you to identify the co-pilot by name? Who he was? Or he?
Actually, I'm looking at the initials here, but I had AR. I really have to go back in time, because I flew with hundreds of, I really don't remember what the initials was at the time. And I looked at the initials here, I don't recall what it stood for. But if it's written there, it means it was the co-pilot on the plane.
Would that person have to be of a minimum rank?
He could have been a lieutenant or a cadet officer. He could have been a co-pilot. Let me just explain. I think you asked the question, sir. Their planes that have to be flown with two pilots. Those are double group planes, have to be. They're planes that are single pilot planes, but if you have the vacant seat, then that's how we train junior pilots. So they'll come along and fly in the co-pilot seat, in the second seat, with the pilot, with the captain. So while the plane only requires one pilot, that's what we call a single pilot aircraft by law. And then you have double pilot airplanes, which have to be flown with two pilots. The Leanne plane always have to have two pilots in front there. The Highlanders don't have to.
So the Highlander, it is optional to have
Yes,
this pilot?
yes.
There's a space provided for it?
That's right, the space in between, we put passengers in it as well, in the co-pilot seat.
And it's alongside the captain?
Yes. It's on the cockpit.
Okay, so just clarifying, on the first flight, on the 14th, you had a co-pilot whose initials were AR.
Right.
Who would have to be either a cadet or something, a gazetted officer.
It will have to be a
Captain officer, cadet. And on the 17th, according to your notes, there is no co-pilot.
Correct.
All right. We were talking earlier about
And I'm sorry, just to complete that, what was the seating capacity of that plane?
Nine passenger seats in one cabin.
You may have said that before and I missed it. So.
No, I didn't.
we were going to page 57 of JCAD WR1, and I think you had identified Joel Southwell as a male Negro age 26, and this is a statement. And just to complete again, Winston Sago appears to be the witness at the bottom, Detective Sergeant 8267. You see that there at the bottom?
Yes.
Thank you. Well, I'll read it very quickly, just to top of the statement. I am a supernumerary constable and is attached to the H. Diana Mining Enterprise Limited security section. I'm residing in the security section bar room in compound on Tuesday, 17th of June, 1980. One constable goes and myself work the 7 a.m. to 3 p.m. shift at the main gate at about 9 a.m. Just clarify for us, at about what time did you fly on the 17th, your first flight to Tacoma?
8:30.
And land when?
I landed at Tacoma at 9:23.
Somewhere around 9 o'clock. Anyway, so
No, 23 minutes after 9 o'clock.
would be your actual touchdown.
Correct. But at the time when the engines were turned off.
So you land and you shut off.
That's correct.
Grateful. So that sentence goes, at about 9 a.m., a small yellow airplane touched down on the airport. Your airplane would be what color?
Yellow.
And stopped by the landing shed opposite the inquiry office. I observed the number of the aircraft to be 8RGER. What was the number of your aircraft?
8RGER.
And 3 men came on. One of them was the pilot and 2 others. Is it possible that you could have landed at Okwani that morning?
No. Not according to my records.
Is it possible that a flight could have been done without a note being made in your log?
No.
It's all from 17.
The 17th of June? Yes. Do you recall at any time, or do you recall flying Gregory Smith at any time, or a man who looked like Gregory Smith or resembled Gregory Smith at any time after the 14th?
Absolutely not.
You're certain?
Absolutely.
But the number referred to is the number of the flight of the plane you were flying.
That's correct.
You passed the 59 very quickly, Chair. Yes, 59. Let's go with 59. So you see, Anita Tom, female Negro age 22.
Where, you know? You're writing another statement?
59 months.
All right, before you go, I just wanted to ask another question. For that page 57 there, please.
Yes.
In the context of Guyana, in other countries, this is treated with sensitivity, but I understand why it's started going through this clear. In the context of Guyana, would you normally be described as a short Negro man?
For me?
Yes.
I don't.
Family?
I don't.
I just wanted to. Thank you.
Very well. If you can just look at the bottom of this statement again and just tell me if you see, which statement, sorry, we're on the number 59, page 59. You see Anita Tom at the bottom, statement by Winston Sago, again, Detective Sergeant
Yes.
8267. I'm going to carry you down to, so 12 laying down, so down on Tuesday, 17, 1980.
Yes.
I was on duty in office when about 9:24 a.m. You see that part? The said aircraft and the reference Braston. I need to read the whole thing for you.
Yeah, sorry.
I'm going to read from a sentence that begins at about 9:50 a.m.